Hello. This short video is intended as a support for both participating teachers and support providers as you begin to work through the FACT module, Inquiry into Teaching and Learning. As you can see, we're in Haiku on the page 1-9, FACT, Inquiry into Teaching and Learning. As we scroll down, we begin to see a listing of all of the specific forms that combine together to make the documentation of our inquiry. Rather than read all of these titles to you, we want to point out that the form is listed on the left, and they're all C1, C2, C3, C4, etc., etc., and the expectations are in the right-hand column. This can be really helpful to you as you begin to move through this process. We're going to focus on C2 essential components for instruction, and you'll notice the expectation is all portions must be complete with adequate detail related to the specific unit being taught. Include instructional strategies and/or modifications to be used for students with special needs and English learners. Let's take a look at the specific piece and this document and try to determine how critically important it is to the success of your inquiry. Here we have the first page of the documentation of our inquiry. This is called fact verification. Once again, you see the form, the expectations, and this is where the support provider and second reviewer mark their initials or signature to say they've reviewed this with the participating teacher and it is in fact complete. As we scroll down, we begin to see the actual documents. The first one is called the Individual Induction Plan. That has a separate description. We're going to move to C-2, Essential Components for Instruction. If we take a look at these directions right here, it can help us a great deal. With your support provider, discuss and record information to assure all essential components for instruction are considered when designing your lesson series. This is the critical piece to essential components for instruction. This is the complete design of your inquiry. Constructing this before you start will allow you to have much greater success as your inquiry unfolds. The steps included in this process are the ones that we would typically use for designing a unit or a lesson series. What are our objectives? What will be our entry-level assessment and our summative assessment? What are the skills and vocabulary that students need to know before we begin this lesson series? And what progress monitoring assessments will we be using? So as you move through these questions that are used to prompt and guide us, what we need to understand from this is developing that lesson series and are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves whenever we start a unit or a series of lessons. What materials do we need? What technology will we use? How will we try to ensure that the students are engaged? What instructional strategies will we be using in this series? What accommodations, modifications? What language development data, CELT, etc., have we used in order to ensure that we're considering what will be most effective for our English language learners? Every portion of this planning document is important, but we're going to show a couple of areas of focus. Let's take a look at number 3. Describe the entry-level assessment that will be used. In addition, what rubrics or scoring guides are we going to use to interpret the results? Number 4 asks about our summative assessment. One key piece to this, we design our summative assessment to be able to say, what do we want to know about what students are able to do or have learned from this entire inquiry that we've developed? We also need to know, what do students know and are able to do prior to our beginning of our inquiry? One of the areas we want to be very careful about is to ensure that the entry level and summative is measuring the same skills and abilities and knowledge in the same way. Example, if we use a full essay as our entry-level assessment, but a multiple choice as our summative assessment, we may be attempting to assess the same content area, but are we looking at quite different skills and learning styles between our entry-level assessment and our summative assessment? If we are, then perhaps we're not going to be able to compare how well or what our students need from the entry-level assessment and how well they perform on the summative assessment. In addition, we want to ensure that we're using the same scoring criteria. If we use a different scoring criteria, even if we're using, for example, exactly the same assessment, how can we compare our students' progress? So as you move forward, these are very critical questions that we want to ask about how we're assessing our students and how we're determining how much they've been able to grow in what they learn and are able to do within this inquiry. Again, all of the questions here are very carefully crafted to support us to consider all aspects of what we include in our lessons and our assessments as we move through our inquiry. Your conversations with your support provider are critically important. It also is extremely important that this is completed prior to your inquiry. Thank you.